Marchando para o Mar, Marching to the Sea, which was launched in Kraków in 2017 by Canon Publishing. And I would like to stress also that 2 years before, in 2015, Eduardo Marques da Costa published his first bilingual volume of poetry, bilingual, it has Portuguese, English, entitled 30 Poemas, 30 Poems. We discovered that art is not very easy. Art is difficult. Art is serious. To advance and say, I remember, but his humor is not that wide, and art is difficult, and art is serious. You have to hate your mind. So
there's 3 parts to the book. The first part is the arrival, kind of a presentation of the main poetical character of the book, and then there's a second part which, as the professor said, goes to Chaucer and Don Quixote, the idea of the inn, of the estalagem, a place where people meet and where this character is meeting other characters, and there's a confrontation between this character which is creating himself with other, let's call it, people which are traveling in a similar path but with different options. And so he's confronted with other characters' situations. Ele vocifera e congemina, ferra as garras. Não crê, mas apossa-se. Saliva nervoso, salpicando a carne fresca e queimando. A sua palavra serpenteia, abocanha. Mas uma mulher, eles não descansam. Na minha velhice, como outrora. Contorcendo-se, ele espia desde a porta. Mas ela acredita. E a arte é impermeável.
I feel a lot of pain in it. Would you accept that in your case, poetic art is like chopping the rock? Like cutting the wood or chopping the rock?
Yes. It's shown throughout the book that, yes, it's, there is a notion of hardship, of, I don't say suffering, maybe suffering is a complicated word.
But hard work, it's Aristotelic.
Yeah, it's kind of a Sisyphic battle, kind of, if you remember Camus' idea in the myth, the Greek myth, it's like kind of a pushing that is going on, which implies at least some amount of unpleasantness, and then when it's finished, you start again. So,
but first it's a great and hard work, you say.
Yes, and it's all, because once it's finished, it's already finished. So there's maybe a moment, a glimpse in the end when you are satisfied with the object, but that disappears quite rapidly. And once that is finished, and
there's a salt of the ocean.
For me personally, I'm already in another poem or in another project. So I tend to be struggling for a long time. This book took 1 year to write, more or less, maybe even a bit more. And so I struggled for 1 year to write it, and then as soon as it was finished, I was already thinking of something else, which I'm now working on or creating.
I'm working on the 3rd volume now.
It might take 1 year, 5 years, I don't know, but art is not only aesthetical idea, but it's also a social or philosophical, moral, etc. idea. And then there is also the notion that the art objects, or the art objects, the several art objects that an author creates, are constantly influenced and molded by the author's own existence as a human being, not as an author, but as an actual being, and the society where he is inserted in, to which he belongs to. So these tensions, because sometimes even if the author wants to be politically neutral, socially neutral, and so on, so he wants to be an aesthetical creation that he wants to do, he is there. His choice even is molded by that, by society and by people around him and by his own views.
By politics.
By everything. We can never make them coherent. Never. Our life, our memory, dove está. As soon as we are ravaged by courage, we glimpse only the horror of existence, of each gesture, of each word, dreams, it could be dissimilar. Because it's a story of someone which is passing through this kind of torment and these choices, and the author, which is looking from afar, is in the end kind of making a comment which is, it could be dissimilar, which means it could be different. It didn't have to be this way. This confrontation didn't have to exist. So, and this is the option, the opinion of someone which is exterior. So, in this way, in some way, the exterior author, the main character, is saying, I can make different choices, good or bad. Then that's
crossing the
issue.
But like crossing the ocean and getting the perfection of the verse, of life, of existence, of everything.
Yeah, and here, straight from the title of the poem of the book, the choice of the word marching. In Portugal, the idea of the sea, of the ocean, is a very potent one. It's throughout Portuguese tradition, from Camões to Sofia. It's throughout Portuguese poetry, and especially in recent years, that notion as a positive notion is very present, and this notion of
vocation, of challenge,
which is
of
even kind
an
of
adventure,
yeah,
of a new civilization. Right?
Yeah, and it's even in a way for me a kind of a metaphor for a way of feeling Portuguese, a positive way of feeling. The main character is constantly with his feet in the water, in the ocean, in the salt water, and battling it. So in a way there's a confrontation between sweet water and salt water. So he wants to drink the water, he wants to drink like kind of the grail, or he wants to drink the wisdom of art, of poetry. But if you drink salt water, you die because it's salty. So the salt is the key which is used throughout the poem to deconstruct this kind of positiveness or positive view of poetical tradition.
The volume as such established a dialogue or even a deconstruction of the traditional role of the ocean and of the sea in the Portuguese culture. Because the sea and the ocean in Portuguese culture was something like a fire. In the Bible it was something like the supreme vocation.
It's the center of our culture. Yeah?
The center of the culture. We in Poland had as the center of our culture the earth, the soil to plow. And we had a rather instinctive fear of the ocean.
É tão fácil a palavra, jorra e desliza, e de tanto ser jogada a transparência, avançando sobre o vazio, mergulhando aprisionada a uma tosca geringonça de metal, de tecido e de leviandade. Ninguém se curva, ninguém se comove. É inaudível o seu fim, cubo de gelo. É inaudível o seu fim, coberto de sal. The word is so easy, gushes and slides, and having been played so often, it is transparency, advancing towards the void, diving imprisoned to a clumsy contraption of metal, of fabric, of thoughtlessness. No one bends over, no one gets emotional. Its end is inaudible, an ice cube. Its end is inaudible, covered with salt.
Is it to your mind a metaphor of the Portuguese past and of the Portuguese tradition, or better or worse, even the lack of a Portuguese memory of the past and of the tradition? You could not make it cohere. It was freedom and redemption with ocean. And while you had a body, you would bear it. Art has become unbearably difficult. Once again, art is unbearably difficult.
How can you make it cohere? How can you make coherence, this lightness of youth, with maturity of the actual poet when it arrives there?
Crossing the ocean, only marching to the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. The notion is this: is the coherence is not in that this is the same as this, that there's the same style, that there's the same topic, that there's the same. No, it's in the path, it's in the journey, in the evolution that is there throughout in this kind of humanity, in this kind of metaphysical sense that is there because it's the same person writing it. And so the story of the person which is writing throughout time is always there. And so in a way, as you read, you can discover the poet.
And a discrete question about the exile, the great suffering of exile. You live in exile in Poland, and you lived in Angola, in the Czech Republic, and there is a passage, I will endeavor into a bilingual reading. You never imagined in the world the great suffering of exile, so much space occupied in vain. O grande sofrimento do exílio, jamais o imaginaste na palavra, tanto espaço ocupado em vão. O tej przestrzeni, którą się zajmuje na próżno, kiedy jesteśmy na emigracji. How do you mean?
To create something original, you need to be able to detach yourself from your country, your society, your family, your tradition. It doesn't matter if they are good or bad, or if you agree with them or if you don't agree with them. They're always locking you as a creator. And so you need, in a certain way, to find exile, to find a kind of a space of distance, of freedom, where you can create something which is yours.
Did you find it in Poland?
And then we go to actual exile.
I mean, very discreet and very odd. Still, it's not too much intimate, not personal. A question: did you find your art here in Poland? Did you come back positively with exile?
First, I would have to admit that there is a quest for a certain distance from Portugal. In a sense that throughout my life, recent years, I've been abroad many years, and so that is obviously self-imposed exile in a way. And specifically about Poland, of course, it's important for this book and it's important for the process. First, because Polish poetry is very important to my poetical style, and then because, of course, living in Poland for almost 3 years and surrounded by Polish culture, I'm drinking from it. So I'm drinking from it then to communicate and to interact with my own culture and my own tradition and so on. And so the complicated part, which is also in a way the good part, is the confrontation with a different language, a very different language, with a very different tradition, a very different history, and with a very different culture. And that creates misunderstandings, and it creates hardships, but it also creates the ability to transform yourself and to drink from that, to grow.
To be more tolerant, this is the word.
Yes, to be tolerant and to be more, in terms of, again, of creation, to be more experimental. Remember the banality of a burned sun and landscapes of enormous white flags fluttering quite high for no one to doubt. To remember a bumblebee tormenting rosy children in that same afternoon in which an old tree was naked and gnarled, fighting nowhere. Each night I wake to cut the bamboo my father never cut, the tragedy of neglect. It's our dealing with what remains after everything, even in poems about art, even in poems about how to make art, the unnameable flickers. And while all this and ourselves torments us, the stealing of all that is our property by thieves that believe art to be only excrement in a toilet where other thieves plant flowers. But art made itself an icon in the depths of the estuary. The process demands crossing the salt. It is difficult. And the wind and the rain and man smiling before beauty. Evil is a mirror. In the end, nothing matters but memory and time, slowing so I can guide them through monsters.
Just fantastic, because you know, this last poem should be read like art poetica, like poetic art, like a final convention, like final recognition of existence, of surpassing the ocean in the sense of finding the final sense of existence. But also this poem is full of references to Polish poetry. And I would like you to
poetry, and also to Polish. Throughout the poem there are many references to poetry in general, and to poems which I admire and so on. But in the end, in this final poem, which in a way is very explicit and very open, apparently, there is kind of a torrent of meanings and of references to other poems another poem, more in the
30 poems in Marchando para o Mar, Marching to the Sea.
No, there are
About some motifs, ideas, history, memory, horses, gods, men.
well, first of all, there's an evolution. So if you read them in sequence, then you kind of find this coherence that we were talking before. There's a path, but then there are open references. You hold on insanely to the concrete idea, the dream which instigated you to imagine on the corner an inn, with lush flowers and long peaceful trees, with gentle dogs and portentous gallant horses. So in a way, then here we have an inn, which is not actually this, again, it's not this beautiful inn that is imagined, but kind of a moment of anguish, of confrontation with kind of our demons. Yeah, exactly.
So you are chopping not only the words, not only the waves, but also the myths of sculpture. You are deconstructing
I'm trying at least.
The symbols of poetry, and you are establishing new significative connections in between poetic words.
That's the attempt, yes. If it's achieved, I don't know.
The poetry is very dense. The poetry is very mature, I would say. This is not the poetry of a beginner. It's the poetry which requires an experienced reader.
I just want to congratulate you about this new volume. You know, it's very, very hard to have something written after working hours, stuff like this. And one question, I mean, what would you, if somebody reads this book, what would be the contribution you want this person to have from reading it?
Hopefully, from all these layers and from all this quest, all this path that is shown in the book, hopefully the reader can get to himself a kind of, at least question marks for his own life path, for his own
journey.
Yeah, for his own journey in a way. Like if you have a goal for something that you want to, which is important to you, doesn't matter what, in a certain way, it will always be a path. And so some things will probably pass from this path to create an art object. Hopefully, the book will allow that and will provide that to the reader in one sequence or in its small little layers that are scattered around. I would say, hopefully. But that, the reader will have to say that, not me.
So I think that for the persons who study literature, who translate literature, who rewrite literature, 2 volumes of Eduardo Marques da Costa, 30 poems, 30 poemas, and Marching to the Sea, Marchando para o Mar, offer really a very interesting base for further studies and for further reference. So my suggestion, my suggestion, is to translate these 2 volumes into Polish and to make him live eternally in Poland without crossing any further ocean. The significance and the whole volume is so dense in meanings that many an interpretation is possible, many a reading is possible. And I'm sure that not only the deconstruction of Portuguese history, but also more metaphysical, more an existential meaning is also plausible here as a way of approaching. It was difficult really to read. It's not a futile poetry. It's not about spring and first love. Nothing of the kind. Nothing, absolutely. Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this long question. I wish you one day went back to Poland and continue your magnificent lesson, and I will always be your humble reader.